So again, this coding bat website that I found, let me bring it up here. There it is. So what's with this website? Well, there's a couple of, let me just get rid of that. There's a couple of coding exercises, websites available. And I've got the feedback from you guys that you want to have more exercises. So yeah, this is what I found. There's plenty of other websites as well, but I will show you why I like this in particular. Okay, so codingbat.com/Java is sort of, you've got a version for Python as well, but you've got different sections, different chapters, so to say, for different kinds of problems, starting with the simpler ones and then working your way up to the more complex ones. And you can even create your own account there, meaning you can then store sort of the exercises that you already solve there, and you can see, you can continue, and you can compare with the solutions there. I'm not going to create an account here, but I just want to tell you that it's a pretty cool website. So the 3 exercises that I selected for this first call here are from the and then we've got some description. So let's read this description first. The parameter weekday is true if it's a weekday, and the parameter vacation is true if we are on vacation. We sleep in if it's not a weekday or we are on vacation. So the goal is to return true if we want to sleep in. And we see that the format here is not Google Colab, but we've got the same editor here. We can type something here, we can click on go, and then we have a compile problem because we just didn't write any proper Java code. So it's a different system, but it works the same. You write your code here, you click on go, which is basically your run button in Google Colab. And then you see on the right-hand side, you see the output. And something that I have to mention here is that the format here, you might not be familiar with that. At least we didn't really cover it in the first couple of days. If you haven't seen day 18 yet, day 18 covering methods, then you might be sort of confused or surprised a little bit, but I'm going to explain how this works in a second. Okay. So the idea is that you write a function, a method, like a building block. The building block is called sleep in. That's the name of the method. It's sort of given as an exercise. In this exercise, the method is going to be called sleep in. So you don't change anything here in this first line. And you see that we've got this curly braces here, and inside this curly braces, we're going to write the implementation of this method here, sleep in. And the question is, what should we implement? Well, we get 2 parameters, 2 variables that are given to us when this method is called. One of them is a Boolean. It's called weekday. So it's like any Boolean variable that we had would define ourselves. But here it's defined as part of the method that's being called. Okay, so when we are inside this block here, we can use weekday as a Boolean variable because that's what we get from when the method is called. And we also can use vacation as a Boolean variable. Okay, so these are the 2 input parameters, we call them, that we get. But it's really just any old variable, any Boolean variable here. And we need to return a Boolean. What does return mean? Well, we are called here, we are writing this sleep in method. We are implementing it, and then we have to return a Boolean value. So either true or false. Okay, so let's just skip the whole weekday and vacation thing. We have to return something that's a Boolean. So we could sort of say, well, we always return true. It sort of really defies the purpose of having this weekday variable and this vacation variable, but I just wanted to show you how this is working. So we have, we just return true here, regardless of the weekday or the vacation variable that we're getting, and we now hit run. And now what you're seeing is here on the right-hand side, you've got different calls to this sleep in method with different parameter variations. For example, the first thing here, the first call here, the first line in this table calls this sleep in method that we just wrote here. We're just returning true every time with two false parameters here. So the weekday is set to false and the vacation is also set to false. And what the sleep in method is expected to return back is true. Okay, so if the sleep in method gets a weekday false, it's not a weekday, and we're not on vacation, then we should be sleeping in. That's why we return true here, and that's actually the expected value. And when our method is being run, so that's sort of this true here is what's expected. What would be the correct result of that method here, and this is what our method actually returns. And it returns true because it always returns true, right? You see, regardless of the variations of the input parameters here, we always return true. Why? Well, because we just have written here return true, okay? So our goal here is when we implement our methods here, and this is always the same for all these coding bats exercises here, what we implement here is what we implement, and then we hit go, and then we see that all the boxes here are green. That means that all different variations of parameters are doing the correct, we are doing the correct thing given these different parameters, okay? So let's just for giggles here, now change this to return false. Now we've got three red examples, three red false results here, right? Because we are always returning false now, but the first one actually should return true, okay? So this is how this is working in general with this coding bad exercises. You write something here inside these curly braces, you get the variables here within the parentheses as input parameters, and the input parameters are then set with these values here. In the first run, weekday is set to false, and vacation is also set to false. So we can use this here, and then we can sort of create our logic, write our logic. And the thing is that for one implementation here, all the different expected results here should be true, or should be green, I should say, should return the correct result. Okay, so I hope that's clear, but maybe if we continue working with it, it will get clearer. So you've got examples here, and we now have to implement the method in a way that these examples here and the expected results here are actually being returned from our variable. So what do we want to achieve? Let's read the example again, or the task that we have to fulfill here. The parameter weekday is true if it's a weekday, and the vacation is true if we're on vacation. Okay, so that's the important thing here. We sleep in if it is not a weekday or we are on vacation. Okay, so I would say we want to return whether we want to sleep in. Should sleep in. Okay, that's a Boolean variable. And then when we have defined this, we have to set it to some value here. We just have to explain what we're going to do here. But then once we've set it, we can return it. That's the idea. Okay. So Boolean should sleep in. When should sleep in be true? Well, sleep in should be true if it's not a weekday or we're on vacation. Not a weekday. What does not a weekday mean? Well, we've got the weekday parameter, the weekday variable here, but we need to invert it. We don't say we should sleep in if it's a weekday. We should say we should sleep in if it's not a weekday. So what's this not Boolean operator? It's the exclamation mark, right? Not week. This is read as not weekday here. If it's not a weekday, then we should sleep in. But is this the only way that we should sleep in? The only possible way that we could sleep in if it's not a weekday? No, because if it's a vacation, then we should sleep in no matter what day it is, if it's a weekday or not. So we have it here. We sleep in if it's not a weekday, we already have that, or we are on vacation. Okay, so what's the or? The or is the Boolean operator with these two pipe symbols here. Or, well, we are on vacation. Okay, and that's actually, this is a logical expression, a Boolean expression. That's a fancy word of saying it's evaluated, right? We see vacation can be, it's a Boolean, it can be either true or false. So or vacation means regardless of what weekday is, if vacation is true, then should sleep in is also true. Otherwise, if vacation is not true, if it's false, then we have a look at weekday. And if it's a weekday, then we sort of invert it. Not weekday is meaning we should not sleep in, right? If it's weekday is false, if it's a weekend, then weekday is false. Not false is true. So then should sleep in gets true as well. So if we run this now, we see that we've got all the 4 checks here that this Coding Bad website here is running, set to green, because all the different variations are sort of our implementation here of this method returns the correct results regardless of the variation of these 2 parameters. Weekday false and vacation false should return true. So let's check that, for example. So a weekday is false, not false is true. So this thing here is true. True or something else, false is true. So should sleep in is true. We actually do return true, which is the correct result, and so on. Okay, so this is the way that this Coding Bad exercises work. You get the written tasks that you should implement. You get the sort of the method signature, we call that, meaning the name of the method, which is sleep in, the return type, which is what we should return, what we should get back, and the list of parameters, the list of variables that we are sort of given, right? We never write weekday equals false or vacation equals false, because this is what the system is doing when we're hitting run. It's checking all the different input parameter variations and checking whether our implementation is returning the correct result, the correct return values here. Okay, so this is our implementation here. We can save it. We can also click on show solution. Actually, this is even more verbose here. This is the solution that they are seeing here. If not weekday or vacation, which is basically what we have here. And then they check this with an if then else, or actually if and the else is irrelevant here. Okay, so that's also possible. If not weekday or vacation, return true. Maybe that's even more logical for you. That makes more sense. Okay, so you can always, if you're interested, if you can't really find a solution to exercise, you can hit on show solution and you can compare what you have with sort of the official solution. But bear in mind, this is not the only solution. As long as if you click go and you've got all the green ones here, all the lines here are green, then you've got a correct solution, regardless of whether it looks exactly the same as sort of the official solution.